Good evening, workshoppers. Tonight we've got a special episode following up from the last episode where Zinkiki and I were going through and talking about BlizzCon. Figured, it was that time of the year. We have our BlizzCon holiday traditions. So bringing in, some good friends of the show. You might remember some of them. We'll see, to go through and talk about some BlizzCon, talk about some predictions, and I guess that little PTR thing that got announced or whatever. But yeah, welcome here to episode 173. Time for some predictions, and I am joined by the lovely Dredscythe. Push to talk.
Yeah, thank you. I know.
Off to a great start.
Damn right.
He warned me before you joined the call. He warned me about it. That's the only reason why I knew to.
At least you're all aware.
Yep. And that guy over there on the far side of the screen, Mr. Leviathan.
Hey, we're bringing the band back together.
We're bringing the band back together.
Feels good, man. Thank you for inviting me back on.
It's good to have you on the show again. It's just like old times.
Just like old times.
Old-timey times. Though, unlike last time that we did this, we might be a little bit better in our predictions.
To be fair, though, I think our predictions weren't that far off. It was more just that we didn't believe in the meme.
Yeah, we let the meme be a dream, and then it came back and smacked us.
That's what happens.
I still think I was more accurate, even though it took like several months after the fact for them to say like, "Oh, we had every intention, but it just didn't work out."
But yeah, so much for there is never going to be a Diablo mobile game,
Yep.
And here we are, where we're still waiting for more information on the Diablo mobile game. But speaking of BlizzCon, I do want to go through and start off the show, as you might have seen on Twitter, or if you haven't, if you're listening to this, pre-recorded, whether YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher. I think we're on like SoundCloud or Spotify or something like that. I have no idea where JR has actually hosted this podcast. Your podcast platform of choice. I will be giving away 2 BlizzCon virtual tickets here at the end of the stream. But if you're not here live, I do have 2 more tickets that I'll also be giving instructions on how you can go through and claim those. One for YouTube, one for people listening to the podcast on audio, and of course you can cross enter the competition across all of those. So we'll talk more about that at the end. But I will be pulling 2 winners from the Twitch chat at the end of the episode here. So just stay tuned. I'm sorry that you're going to have to listen to the whole episode in order to get those tickets, but bear with us.
Is that a sorry, not sorry, or a real sorry?
Can't it be both? Can't it be
Always.
both?
Why not both?
Always and forever. I guess we do have that one little thing to talk about before we get into BlizzCon. I guess like that season 19 patch 2.6.7 PTR thing got announced. We've got that going on. And just that little thing. What could it take to get me to not play a Necromancer and switch over to a Crusader for a season?
The return of one of your favorite skills of all time?
Move over, Anguirus Council. I hope you save room for my fist, because I gotta ram it into your heavens and break your goddamn builds!
Holy moly. You turned it up to 11, folks.
God, Fist of the Heavens. Leviathan, you and I have been talking about this one, I think, for a couple of years now.
Yeah, longtime listeners of the show will honestly remember so many conversations were just like, if they just give us something. And then remember there was that one patch where they made the belt, or like, It ain't enough though. It still is not enough.
They made the belt, and they added also the proc onto the Darklighter. I think it was the Wombo combo of the 2 items, and it was like, I believe the idea was, just use it with the cons, and well, that didn't work.
still paled in comparison to just any other thing you could do as a Crusader.
Mm-hmm.
But justice is swift, kind of. Not really.
It got here eventually. You know, it took the bus. It got off at the wrong stop. It had to wait, you know, for the next bus to kind of pick it up and bring it back to the other location. But the one that comes through takes a detour, and you know, but
went to Albuquerque, made the left turn, then the right turn, and then
exactly,
the proper turn, you know?
Exactly. But yeah, the new Crusader set, the Aegis of Valor, is a Fist of the Heavens build, which is going to allow you to fist your heavens any time that you want. And, you know, I guess it's one of those...
Unlimited fisting?
Unlimited fisting, provided that you're angry enough and you have enough wrath.
I can get behind this. I mean, wait a minute.
Nothing drains your wrath like a good old fist in your heavens.
Maybe.
But yeah, it is also kind of like a window into seeing how the new kind of team that's in charge of you know, Diablo 3 is going to approach these class sets and such. And you know, this one is relatively simple. It's just all around Fist of the Heavens. So the Crusader set, you know, the 2-piece set bonuses, the charged bolts from Fist of the Heavens have a chance at casting another Fist of the Heavens, which I imagine will also proc the Dark Lighter, which, you know, doubles, and then we doubled it, which will double your, it will cast Fist of the Heavens twice every time that you cast it. The 4-piece set bonus is one of the ones that kind of worries me a little bit, is that it does give you up to 50% damage reduction, but it requires you to, it sounds like, you know, because you have to, hitting with Fist of the Heavens reduces damage taken by 1% for 5 seconds, stacking 50 times. So I've got to hit, you know, I have to cast Fist of the Heavens literally 50 times to get it to max stacks, and then it lasts for 5 seconds.
I hope that the bolts that come off of it might count as hits too. So then if there's 6 bolts per Fist of the Heavens and then Dark Light doubles it, then maybe you only need, like, you know, 5. And hopefully those all, you know, 60 bolts hit and maybe 10 miss or something. Then you can get 50%. But that definitely is worrisome, because any sets that don't just automatically give you your damage reduction up front, you're really vulnerable at the beginning of a Greater Rift or a regular Rift. And we've all had those times where we jump in and something jumps on you and you just insta-proc, and you have to really, you know, scramble or just leave, or it definitely is problematic. So I wonder if that's something that, if there's enough feedback, they might be willing to change. I wonder why. What set is it for Necros? Is Pestilence that kind of has a mechanic? It seems like they're into this, but I feel like the community is not.
Yeah, I think it's actually both the Pestilence in Rathma, because Rathma also has a ramp-up mechanic, as well as the Pestilence having to go through and consume the corpses. So they're both ones that go through and start off. But they also, like with Pestilence, you have a longer window. Like, it's like the thing that worries me the most is that 5 seconds. Obviously, they have the PTR for a reason, to try and work and tweak that number, but like 5 seconds is not a lot of time. That's, you know, you transition, you know, into what is it, like if you're going from like a Blooded Moors map, you know, to, or the Plagued Moors, Shrouded Moors, sorry, I will figure out names, into another Shrouded Moors, you're pretty much, if there's not enemies that spawn immediately there right next to the entrance, you're going to drop it.
Right. Or even some things that people have been worried about too is the time it takes to spawn a Rift Guardian.
True.
Both with this and also with the seasonal theme. I just feel like maybe a little bit more grace period, would go a long way to help.
Yeah.
If they want to keep with this. And I do think one of the reasons they're doing it, if I can like get in the mind of the developer, is they have been on this kick pretty much since Necro of trying to make things more active, right? So this is kind of like, you have to be active to get your damage reduction. I feel like the one instance where we'd be happy to not work hard would be if we could have our damage reduction.
That should be one of those ones that you just start with. You know, ramp up your damage output or something along those lines. But yeah, getting insta-gibbed, and then it's basically, well, this rift is over. You know,
that's not good at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, But yeah, and then there's also subsequently those supporting items like the dark light, and what was the belt called?
It's like Caster's Court of Retribution or Righteousness or something like that.
Gotcha. They both were, or I guess it was just actually looking through it. It was just the dark light was buffed, so that way it guaranteed the double cast and also a damage boost on it.
And then the belt was left untouched, but I believe it gives you a 60% wrath cost reduction and then also a multiplier. I think it's somewhere in like the 250% range or so.
Yeah, which I guess with today's standards, kind of like that 10,000% damage bonus from the 6-piece, as well as the dual 200% bonus damage things. I don't know how that will work out in the grand scheme of things. It's funny when you say, yeah, it's funny when it's like, oh yeah, it's a 10,000% damage bonus. That seems kind of low.
Yeah,
that's where we are in this game, I guess.
It is really true.
But hey, we'll find out like literally probably in the next couple of hours, because it's like the patch was supposed to deploy or the PTR was supposed to deploy today, and the PTR itself, the patch has gone out. But apparently, from what Watson was linking in the chat earlier, Brandy made a statement on the forums that they're having some issues with the character copy feature, and so that's holding them back from actually being able to deploy the full PTR at the moment.
Yeah, hopefully they get that worked out. It would be nice if right after podcast is done, we can just go and pop in.
Right? That'd be beautiful.
A good efficient use of time.
Hey, there you go.
It'd be nice.
Yeah. And then also not to just hark on the Crusader the entire time. I guess the Monk also did get a set.
We can care about that too.
Yeah. But Patterns of Justice. This one is kind of like a Sweeping Wind Tempest Rush build. And so the 2-piece set bonus, the Sweeping Wind gains the effect of every rune. 4 pieces, each enemy within Sweeping Wind increases your movement speed by 5%, stacking up to 10 times. And the 6-piece set bonus is attacking with Tempest Rush, while Sweeping Wind is active, will temporarily increase the size of Sweeping Wind after hitting over 30 times within a short period, and Sweeping Wind's damage is increased by 10,000%. So this one seems like it is the type of, it's kind of a passive, you just kind of like hold down Tempest Rush and run through enemies.
Yeah, this one, it seems like they're trying to enable a bit of a, I guess, like a AFK almost speed farm thing for Monk, that especially something that's not revolved around Wave of Light, because I think that's the biggest, complaint of Monks these days is so many of their builds are just Wave of Light in a different flavor of set or non-set even.
Yeah.
So this could be interesting because it does return some of the juiciness of like vanilla Monk days with the blue tornadoes going to be spawning all over the place.
Yeah.
I miss that.
The old where like the Monks actually had the Enos was one of the few classes that that set actually had some viability and some uses, just running through everything. And they did add like Eye of the Storm. It doubles its damage if it is hitting only a single enemy to help with Rift Guardians, as well as Vengeful Wind. Increases the maximum stacks up to 10, and then also just has a damage multiplier on it as well.
Yeah, some of the early concerns I've seen is that it might not be enough damage, and also the fact that this set doesn't, speaking of damage reductions like we were on the Crusader one, this one doesn't even have a damage reduction built in. And then if you look at what you get from Sweeping Wind, there's no damage reduction component to that, so this kind of might be sketchy in terms of survivability, which could really only leverage it for some sort of speed farm setup, since of course in Greater Rifts you need something. Yeah,
like it could just literally be your regular Rift farming, because you don't have to worry about damage reduction because you'll have a gold wrap, but it could be one of those ones where I guess it's weird because it's a new development team, and so you don't know what kind of like what design pillars they're keeping from Team 3, and which ones that they're gonna break out of, and they're gonna do things their own. They're gonna try it out themselves, with This one definitely seems focused that, well, this one really isn't for farming GRs. This is just for your Torment 16, your bounties, and things of that nature, which, could be cool, but other people might, say, well, I prefer this playstyle than spamming Wave of Light, even when I want to run GRs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw a point that you made too. I think it was on Twitter that numbers are what they are in terms of just tossing it out on PTR. Like they have to pick a starting point. So there's around 10,000. It's very easy to put out, and then they should be able to make adjustments before it goes live.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do feel it's not performing as well as they want, so to your point, we don't really know what the headspace is of this current classic games development team. If they want it to perform better for GRs, they can certainly tweak numbers enough to make that happen, or even change fully powers on sets and stuff.
Yep, and like this is just even if they don't make many changes this time around, there's next season where they'll be implementing 2 more sets for 2 more classes or 3. We're not sure how many they're going to be doing every season. And they will also still go back and can make class balance changes, because in addition to the Monk and Crusader sets, there's a whole slew of barbarian changes going back to the kind of call to arms from the barbarians from over the summer, that they were unhappy with a lot of the state of barbarians in general, and that they wanted more options, more utility, more damage, because they were kind of lagging behind a lot of the other classes in terms of their, solo Greater Rift pushing. And they've done a lot of changes to try and address that.
Oh, yeah. I thought with that sort of in mind, the idea that the barbs really are lagging behind the other classes, I figured, and especially I also thought kind of logically that in the alphabet, B comes first. So I figured just Barbarian would be first up from so many different angles. So it's kind of surprising to see that they didn't go with the Barb set right away. I wonder if it's just like they just had ideas that were better fleshed out for Crusader and Monk first. But the fact that they did at least acknowledge and take the time to change up a bunch of those powers, and it's a lot of stuff people are looking pretty excited for. It seems powerful. Definitely a nice shout out for the Barbs there. A lot of rend action going down.
Yeah, I would imagine that they're probably gonna do the Barbarian probably next, just for the sake of they knew that they had to do something good, something decent, and had to be fleshed out and working. So I would imagine that maybe this first go around of grouping of Barbarian items was their kind of 1 foot in to what they needed to do, and then if there was an egregious error or something left out, they would be able to pick it up when the Barbarian got its new set, so they can kind of come back to the class, say, okay, we did all this, we're going to fix this, fix that we just introduced last patch, and then here's your new sets with the new items, to really make sure that the Barbarian is robust for solo as well as group play. So I'm imagining that's what they're going with.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. You basically give yourself a window of opportunity to see how the community is reacting to some initial change that's not too crazy or too involved. And then when you do, like you said, make that bigger change, you'll be a bit more guided into how you should go about it. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and probably on a larger, when you take that concept, expand on a larger concept, even though myself included would have loved that, I think that Brandy went into this whole philosophy of just pumping out all the sets at once. I think we all understand, going back, what was it, 2.6.1, when that was like the great rescaling of the sets.
Yeah,
that's just a lot of work. So I think they, even though it sucks because it's like Demon Hunter and Wizard, I want to see what those sets are. It's like they're not here
for sure,
but I think, in all honesty, for the classic team who's been gradually getting their feet more wet, to use that cliche, it's probably a better design flow for them to do 2 sets in one, figure out what it is, and then as they figure out stuff for the first 2 sets that we're getting now, when they do the next ones and polish them up, it'll be like rapid fire knowledge. They'll be able to do better things, fix things quicker, and then it'll just be better for them as a development team as well. So I think take that up and make it broader strokes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a slightly different theory, in that the longest thing in any type of development cycle, especially when creating items, is the art. And so I would wager a guess that they probably actually know what they're doing for every single one of the class sets. And the only reason why they're going to be releasing them piecemeal across the season is just because they have limited resources in order to go through and develop the textures and the assets for all the class sets. But it would also, but because it is being stretched out over time, they'll use that in order to learn, and when they create, like when the next two sets that come out, they'll have a better understanding. They'll already have made changes, but I'm sure that there's probably a roadmap that says, well, this class is going to be focused on this set of skills, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine they've had that for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
Just hopefully no more revive level of just hopefully assets.
No more.
I think they've learned that lesson.
Yeah.
Revive level of art assets. No more.
I've got
No
revive level. Something. Sorry, I have audio duplicating on me now.
Oh. Hello.
Sorry, I have. Oh, there it is. I found it. It opened up a new Twitch tab for whatever reason. There we go. Hashtag professional podcast. But
you tell it.
I actually, I see Zinkiki in chat here, and I had put together my predictions of what the class sets were going to be. I think it was back at the end of August, I think it was, or maybe the beginning of September, and then that article has just been sitting in limbo for forever. And so far, I'm actually 2 for 2, because I predicted that the Crusader was going to be Fist of the Heavens, and that the Monk was going to be Sweeping Wind, Tempest Rush.
Nice, same basically. I was going through and thinking of what skills could get some love or some buffs.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I actually had problems with the Barbarian. I wasn't quite sure what they could do for the Barbarian, since it actually what was it? Grev was actually saying in chat, the Barbarian, despite not being able to perform quite as high as a lot of the other classes, all of their builds are kind of along the same level, and so they do have a lot of variety in what it is that they can do. And a lot of things are already covered from a lot of different play styles.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. That's the side effect of what seems to happen if you don't have any if you're not one of the classes that's doing the highest grade of rifts. It feels like it tends to work out that your other options for whatever build you're trying to do just seems to get the same types of marks for greater rifts. So at least, hey, you've got variety if you can't go and do what the wizards are doing.
Yeah,
but what you did say makes sense in terms of the coverage. The one thing, and I was lucky to crowdsource a little bit since I was discussing it on stream. One thing people were pointing to is a really nice pastime from Barbs is Frenzy. Back in the day, he used Frenzy sidearm and all that stuff. And there are some items that enable Frenzy, so it could be that they would go with a generator type of set, and we've seen examples of those in the past, so maybe double down on that. And there are some generator items in general too.
Yeah, that is true. And now I'm trying to find that article that I wrote to see what it is that I had guessed. Because for the reason why I was bringing it up is Dread, your comment about the Necromancer is because the Revive was specifically my Necromancer guess is what they would do.
I think everyone's Necromancer guess is Revive, because they just want it to be like a pinnacle skill in anything.
All right, and here you go, Leviathan. Barbarian, Frenzy Generator build.
What the hell? All right, well.
What? You got Neinstradamus here.
What did you choose for the Demon Hunter?
Chakram?
Of course, Chakram.
I went with Elemental Arrow.
Oh, that was the other popular. That, Chakram, and Strafe were the 3 top ones I've been seeing floating around.
Yeah, I didn't do Strafe just because Nats would kind of defaulted into that a little bit.
There's a home for it there.
Yeah, I think we had actually discussed Wizard with Blizzard Hydra.
Yeah, that old school setup from vanilla.
Yeah, you were gonna say something.
I feel Demon Hunter probably would be Chakra, something like that, because as weird as it sounds, you basically like make it like a buzzsaw build. Like you're just shooting chakras out, like, and you're just like obliterating things in front of you. I mean, there's and chakra's rune variety could actually lend a lot to a set doing things. But
that is true, because Chakram is actually one of those few skills from early, D3 that each of the runes like drastically changes the functionality of the skill. It doesn't just, well, it does poison damage now.
and the more I think about it, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but in some ways chakra reminds me of like the Crusader's hammer build, because it seems in some matters you can kind of do the same things. You can have chakras go around you, they kind of go out and they spiral like forward instead of just going around you. But it could be interesting. It would be something at this point. It's like it's something different than Impale or Multi-Shot.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then
it's a skill that people like people use it mainly to level 1 to 70 and are sad when it tapers off.
And then you never see it again.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for Wizard, it's like, Blizz Hydra is a classic, but I want something for Mirror Image. Like make Mirror Image like
great again.
Like just
use. Well, guess
great never.
Well,
it was never great to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, no. Remember what the main defensive mechanic of Blizzard Hydra was. It was Mirror Image.
Was it?
Yeah.
But it's like I would love it if like something with Mirror Image, like you weren't necessarily strong by yourself, but when your mirror images were out, like they did like a certain percentage of what you were doing, and I mean it would basically be like extreme single target damage, most likely, unless they figure out a way to like almost make you feel more like a magician than a wizard, and they kind of went with like that running away, like illusionary or like arcana, and just like go wild with that.
Yeah.
And just make it like it would be almost like a goofy build, granted, when you think about it, but it's just something like out of like left field, because if it's anything that can incorporate Archon will be applied to it, and I just don't want that.
Yeah. And then to wrap it up, Witch Doctor, zombie bears.
Yeah, the return of zombie bears.
All right, I had an idea, and this one I was actually really proud of. This was the favorite part that I wrote. So you have the set buff specifically zombie bears, but it makes the zombie charger also gain the undeath rune, which is when it hits an enemy, it kind of respawns and continues on. So that way, when you hit the zombie bears, if it hits an enemy, they it's basically kind of like a little channeled AOE. But then it jumps to the next one, and then can jump to the next one. So you have a wave of zombie bears going across the screen, hitting everything in a line. So that way you can actually hit like massive amounts of mobs, like when they're all go through and they're jumped to or like bundled together.
It's kind of cool. So you're like basically giving zombie bears haunt.
Yeah.
But also like almost reminds you of like Stampede with like Failing Stampede from Crusader too.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yep. So it was just specifically like, imagine a wave of zombie bears leaping and plunging in and out of the ground, doing massive waves across the screen, giving the Witch Doctors the abilities to use zombie bears as a missile while speed farming or channeled for tougher parts. And then while we're wish listing, this set would also turn all of your other zombie skills, zombie dogs, wall of death, into bears, zombie bears. And then the set itself is a zombie bear. And then the season that comes out, the Guardian reward is a pet zombie bear.
Ooh.
I rest my case.
Big Daddy's hearing you, and he's just melting in his chair from how good that was.
Right? I would play that build. I would.
I'd be down. That sounds like a lot of fun.
But yeah, I guess none of us have had a chance to actually go through and play on the PTR just yet, as it seems to have literally come up maybe 5 minutes ago in the chat. So it will be something that we can all hop on and play immediately as the show's over.
Indeed.
Pretty much.
But in addition, there was a couple other things that came up in this patch that we've not seen in a very long time. Nerfs.
Yes.
Yeah. Bone Ringer got nerfed. And then I don't fully understand like the bazooka wizard, so I was hoping that maybe since you've been playing it a lot on stream, Leviathan, that you'd be able to walk me through a little bit of what like this change with Chantotos is affecting for
So
the
this,
wizards.
yeah. So this actually just it doesn't touch bazooka because they don't use Chantotos. So this is a hit to Veer Chantoto Archon. Basically bringing their power level down. I'm not sure by how much because I don't know what the attack speed scaling into the Chantoto waves, how it exactly works. But I guess the idea is that you'll probably still have a good build, just won't go as high as it previously did. And it is peculiar that they didn't touch bazooka at all because that is the crux of what's getting these groups to 150 and clearing with these like 5-6 minute times.
Yeah, it's the bazooka that's going through and clearing the mobs, and then the necromancer that's going and killing it. But even then, from some of the discussions that I've seen, that people are kind of like going and mathing it out, even capping the stacks on Bone Ringer isn't really going to push the kill times that much farther. Like they also nerfed they also kind of like nerfed blighters so that way the attacks don't happen as often, so it's not just like an instant kill. But other ones that do area of effects like Blood Maw and such are still going to be like 1 minute kills.
Right. So it probably will still have some legs, but maybe be a bit fishier.
Yeah, and this is maybe jumping ahead. I don't know, but I can only add to the wizard component of this by loosely quoting SVR saying that even though the attack speed component of Veers may be nerfed, the fact that if Squirts is truly fixed and doesn't drop nearly as much as it is in this season, it may be a net wash as far as the damage loss from the attack speed scaling, but the increased uptime of skirts on average. So it's like a lot of things. Like from a bird's eye view, I'm happy they're nerfing. That's one thing that, I mean, and the reason why this is so important for people who don't know, the last time they nerf things, you have to go back 3 or 4 years, and it wasn't. It was nerfing, but it wasn't like like what I guess what we would consider proper nerfing, like balanced nerfing and all that kind of sense. It was nerfing health club regeneration, and then the patch before that was the absolute neutering of witch doctors with their CC control. You have to go back to a patch prior to that where there was proper ability and along with set nerfing and adjustments and upping. So you have to go back probably like 4 years, 4.5 years at this point. So them actually nerfing some things is actually I'm really proud of, because that was something, as we get to future looking discussions, is something I was fearful, like as a philosophy going forward with this game, as well as potential Diablo 4 / next copyright Neinball 2017.
The one thing that I find interesting is like, why now all of a sudden, like like more every season, more and more 150s are getting cleared, and so it's one of those ones that it's not I guess maybe not that big of a deal. Eventually we will have like a non-meta 150 clear, so it's just kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah, I guess I always feel like if you're gonna nerf stuff, it's supposed to be because you're opening up diversity. And if the reason why the Veer one seems kind of, or the Chantoto one seems peculiar to me, is that yes, early in a season it does lend the wizard the opportunity to be like a trash killer for groups, but they do eventually make that transition to bazooka. So I felt like if you wanted to open up trash killers, then you would have made a better nerf to bazooka, or a nerf to bazooka, I would say. And then in terms of the thorns, necro, that one to me seems both aimed at the fact that maybe they didn't like the gameplay style, because again, we were talking about how they really want more active play styles from the last couple of things they've added to the game.
Yeah.
But also maybe it could open up an opportunity for something like an Impale TH or the Crusader Heaven's Fury stacker for boss killing and stuff. Maybe those get a better shot, or a different necro build perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but it doesn't look like, you know, the Bone Ringer nerf is going to be enough. It's still going to be like the best Rift Guardian killer that there is. And that's just how insane its damage is. So it's no longer just going to, oh, I just got to kill the boss in 30 seconds. It takes a minute now.
Well, actually, Leviathan, let me ask you a question, because I've been out of it and everything. In the 4-man meta, if the bazooka, say, let's say it was, if it did get nerfed and it dropped down, say, 5 or 10 GR levels as far as the bazooka's the bazooka wizard's capacity to kill trash. So say maybe like the bazooka could only really handle 145 or 140. Is there another class with another build that could fulfill it, or would 150 just be dead at that point?
It's a good question. It's hard to remember what the meta looked like prior, but I think the last trash killer was Witch Doctor still at that point, like Eric here Firebat, because Eric here had received some recent buffs. The big issue that you get away, or that you reintroduce, is you have area damage builds again.
One thing that's great. Lag.
Yeah, and then now instead of like the power, you're more trying to mitigate how do you get through a GR without lagging yourself to death and destroying your time. So I do feel like it would enable maybe like something like that to come back, like a Witch Doctor build. But I think one of the reasons that bazooka is so great is, yes, it has crazy multipliers, crazy damage, but also none of the lag that you deal with area damage.
Yeah.
Oh, Star Pact. Yeah, that's true. There was also Star Pact with that Archon. So it could be that it reverts to, I mean, well, we're also talking in a world where we haven't seen what a wizard nerf would be, but they could nerf multiple things to where all the meteor casting is not what's done.
Yeah, that would actually be the big one if they decide to nerf that by, you know, addressing the meteor scaling and such. Yeah. You know, all of its overlapping effects, because that would kill like a bunch of builds.
Oh, yeah. It would basically, I mean, yeah, if you get rid of Star Pact, if you get rid of like that simple scaling with the Arcane Meteor, you'd basically erase the wizard from the 4-man meta. I mean, maybe Towels would come back as an area damage clearer, but that, I mean, that would be like going back to the Stone Age in comparison.
Yeah, I think at that point the Witch Doctor is just superior.
Well, you have to think too, if they're unwilling to increase the cap on GRs, which I don't know if we're willing to say that at this point, because they have had multiple patches to do so, and maybe there's something more to it, and that's the reason why they haven't. Then the idea would be that you still keep your 150 as your cap, but you do take down the power level of build so that 150, maybe it's still achievable, but you have to work like super duper hard or get to super high paragons for it if you want it in a season.
Make 150 hard again.
See, you see that and we laugh, but again, but look at what we're saying. It's like make 150 hard again. It's like, were we ever supposed to get this high to begin with? Like, let's ask that question.
Well, I mean, it's one of those ones that exists in the game, so obviously, yes, it had to be an achievable goal at some point.
Yeah, it is just weird.
Enough power, with enough power creep, you can do anything.
Hi.
I'm just wondering when we're finally going to see a solo 150, which, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't a duo cleared a 150 at this point?
If not, they're really close. Yeah. I can't recall. I know 3-player has.
Yeah, I know 3-player has, but I thought that duo clear was still quite a bit off.
I'm not sure I haven't kept up.
Though I said that I checked that before the end of the previous season. So take that with
this season.
Yeah, who knows? Especially with the seasonal buff.
Oh yeah.
Which is the one thing that we still haven't talked about is what the actual seasonal buff is for season 17.
Or season 19.
Yeah, sorry, season 19. There we go. We don't know what the buff is for season 17. We'll have to go back and look at the recordings of ancient history. But yeah, it's this is going to be the season of Pandemonium, and there is a kill streak, I guess, bonus that they're adding in. So you get 0.05% increased movement speed and 0.1% bonus damage for every mob that you kill, while you're keeping that kill streak going, stacking up to a grand total of 50% movement speed and 100% bonus damage at 1,000 stacks. But then also at your big kill breakpoints, it does something. So at like 15 kills, 5 massive energy twisters are unleashed. 30 kills, dark geysers form beneath enemies. Then at 50, exploding chickens seek and destroy. That's one of my favorites. 100, corpses rain from the sky. 150, a wide frost nova freezes enemies. 200, treasure chests start falling from the sky. 300, a ring of fire engulfs everything. 400, meteors hail from above. 500, angels descend upon the battlefield to fight for you. And 1,000, question marks.
Question mark. Oh man, that one's got me curious. I want to know.
It's got to be cows, right?
I saw someone mention that because they were like, the one before it is the angels, and it's like, okay, if you get angels assistance, then they can bring in like summons. But so what's the next thing? Cows. They never talk about cows. So
yeah, they specifically will never talk about cows. So if it's something that they're trying to hide, then it has to be. Well, it's like, what, the PTR's been up for 20 minutes now? Someone's got to have gotten to 1,000 kills so far. Someone's had to have figured it out.
The Cow King.
Where, though? I was trying to figure out, where can you actually get 1,000 kills?
That's going to be tough, and that's probably going to be where all the strategy for this seasonal buff is going to be. It's like, probably going to send you a barbarian through the rift, because if I'm not mistaken, as long as because the rift will only work for one person, even in a multiplayer group. So I'm assuming the kill streak is also shared between the group, if I'm not mistaken.
The kill streak itself is not shared between the group, but the bonuses can only proc once per group.
Okay, so
I think.
So basically, if you or me are in a group, and I get up to 30 kills, it procs. But since we're in a group, that 30 kill streak proc will only happen once.
Yeah, so you're at 30 kills, and I get to 15. My 15 kill streak won't proc anything because you've already passed that point.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the case, or is it that you would get the 15, but not everyone in the party would get the 15?
I don't know, because it says
power. That was my viewpoint on how that worked.
Well, it says powers are tracked at a group level. That means only one power can be active in play at a time, regardless of the number of players in the group. So I guess I
worded a little interestingly.
Yeah, so it's like, are the abilities like one and done, or like, say when you proc, corpses raining from the sky, does that continue until you get to 150? Like, is it a one-time event, or does it just continue to happen until you get to the 150 kills, and then I get my 30 kills and have geysers forming underneath everybody? That seems like that's going to have a hell of a lot going on, and we were talking about like the big thing with the high 150 clears nowadays is mitigating lag, and now you got all that shit happening too.
Yeah, I would be hard-pressed to believe they last forever. I have to believe there's some kind of duration.
Yeah.
Because there was something in the blog post mentioning, like, you might choose to reset your kill streak or whatnot, actively. I don't know. I don't know. If you wanted to keep... And if that's the case, then to me it would seem you would be able to, like, hit 15, hit 30, and then you might actually, like, decisively stop streaking, and then go back, boom, hit 15, hit 30 again, and like keep those effects repeating. And in that case, they would have to end if you would be able to repeat them.
Yeah, and so the higher end ones definitely have to make up for the fact that, if I want to go from 100 to 150, I could just get like the exploding chickens 3 times, like in that, I just get to the 50 kills, drop it, get to the 50 kills, drop it, get to the 50 kills. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah, they hopefully will scale relatively well.
Which we'll be able to test very shortly.
Exactly.
Or at least you probably will. I know me, as soon as this podcast's over, I'm probably going to pass out.
Yeah, I am ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready and waiting.
It has been an interesting week. But yeah. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about as far as the season 19 patch 2.6.7 PTR is so far? But not that we've really had much of a chance to like get in there.
Yeah, it's hard to say much more without actually getting hands-on, but I am excited, again, just because Crusader, this is the skill I've been long wanting to actually utilize. It's great if it'll actually be relevant. Hopefully anything that we find on PTR will get some good feedback, and if it needs adjustment, it'll get that before live. That's the main thing I'm looking forward to and going to spend the most time on.
Yeah. And I guess the one final thing to like go through and show off is that Zinkiki, my co-writer and technically my editor and boss over at Diablo Fans, is messing around on the PTR right now and sent over some pictures from the PTR.
Ooh, let's see it.
Yeah, so we'll be able to go through and get that up. So this is like kind of like the season 19 overview itself. So you've got you've got the pet as well as the portrait frames there to go through and check out. So you've got kind of like that looks like a goblin angel.
Yeah, like Tyrael.
Yeah, but he's got like the treasure sack on his back there and like the elongated limbs. So it looks like it's like an angelic goblin.
It's like the Merc Goblin one that we got really early on, but skinned with angel. Yeah, it looks pretty dope.
Oh, and look at that, the pennant that you get as well. It's Eldruin.
Oh, cool.
Imperius is running around heaven trying to kill that thing for being abomination.
Oh, look at that monk set. Oh my god, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And that, of course, is the monk set itself, and then the Crusader set, which definitely has like a very Imperious look going on, but maybe that one is still like a little bit of a work in progress. It seems that the textures are very flat.
Yeah, I feel you on that. The helm definitely screams Imperious.
Yeah, I mean that is specifically Imperious's halo above him.
That's pretty cool. But yeah, I do agree that maybe like a little bit more rendering on there or something.
Yeah.
It could be with the asthma pet last year. Like the first time we saw it was a little flat, and then they high res the image and it was fixed.
Yeah. That's fair.
Oh, apparently he just sent in a couple more with better quality. So let me check that real quick. Let me pull those up. One second, just trying to get these downloaded here.
Yeah, no worries. While you're doing that, I'll just say too that I think one of the significant things about this, maybe this will be a bit of a bridge to future topics, but one thing that people were saying is we expected perhaps there would be a bit of unveiling of D3 future type stuff at BlizzCon. If the PTR didn't arrive before, that we would maybe have them unveil some sets and talk about, some of the elaborate more on the blog post type stuff. But the fact that we're getting this prior to BlizzCon really does seem like it clears the way for, there shouldn't be a D3 panel or really much D3 time spent at BlizzCon.
Yeah, especially when we compare and contrast with last year, where they had, at the time it was going to be like a massive patch as well as a big seasonal theme, going into the very next thing that they announced just a couple weeks after BlizzCon to go through and get into, that they just were quiet on the entire convention. If that's they're showing all of the Diablo 3 stuff now, so that way they have more time to talk about other topics.
Yeah,
A
that's
lot of runway being cleared.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that as a segue potentially, because it seems like, at least also with World of Warcraft, retail wise, there was like the between 8.3 and like everyone basically expected expansion to be announced, but the window was so tight, and then like out of nowhere on the Monday, 8.3 was at least the information dump was given, like, okay, this is where you're going, this is what you're gonna do, this is the raid, blah 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 blah. So and then the PTR went up that day, so it seemed like they were clearing the way so they could talk about other stuff at BlizzCon, you would imagine. So it seems like that is being done. I mean, it's just reiterating what both of you have said. Is just they're getting this season 19 PTR, the season known, the changes updated, the PTR going, and so it doesn't have to be a big discussion point at this year's BlizzCon, so they can focus on other things. So it seems like, even though it's not the massive hype train of like the novels and the comics and the supposed Netflix series and blah 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 that was last year, this seems to be a more practical, tangible sign that they're trying to clear the way for something at BlizzCon, you would imagine.
Yeah. And because what was it? The opener into season 18 itself. I was talking on the show. I was predicting the season 19 PTR, and it lined up perfectly with the season 17 PTR, or the season 18 and season 17 PTR. That it would come literally the week after BlizzCon. Would be the same timing that it had for season 18 and season 17, and so this one is actually pushed forward a little bit, specifically to get it ahead of that. And there has to be obviously there's a reason behind that. They don't want to spend any time talking about D3 at BlizzCon, but they don't want a scenario last year where they have a lot of stuff that they're going to go through and do. And so they want people to know, oh, hey, there is things that we're doing for Diablo 3 still. Here it is, check it out. And then now we don't have to talk about it at BlizzCon.
Right.
Yeah, but speaking of BlizzCon and things that they could talk about, I guess we can kind of get into the focal point, the reasoning for this congregation, this gathering of minds. It's time to go through and put down some predictions. I think this one is a bit easier than we had it last year, because this is pretty much like, well, yeah, no duh, type stuff. So the first question that I've got to ask for the both of you, and so for the first question, Dread, I'll let you answer first. Do you think that we'll get the Immortal release date at this BlizzCon?
I would hope so. I would think maybe they take like a page out like the Hearthstone teams feedback. It's like here's the expansion, here's a couple of cards, we're gonna do like, we're gonna have a couple of people show some cards off, and then bam, in a month it's gonna be out. So stay tuned to our Facebook and Twitter and all our other streamers for the card reveal, and you'll be able to pre-purchase your 50 card pack bundle starting next week. Hopefully it's like that, because any form of elongating a release date or information is a detriment, and a big one, because without any information or release date, it's like swimming out there treading water, and it's just like that. But just a quick note, the thing that gets me, all three of us, I think, are less than 2 weeks away from being in Anaheim, and that scares me. It's coming quick, but I'll end it there.
It's coming very quick. And then now the same question over to you, Leviathan. What are your thoughts?
I'm kind of in line with if they do touch it at BlizzCon, it has to be a very quick touch, just kind of given the history of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can't be an isolated announcement, like it has to be sort of lumped in with other stuff. I think that should be the lesson that they learned from last BlizzCon. But I think one theory that I hadn't really contemplated, that I don't know if it has legs, but what they could do, similar to what we were just discussing about clearing runway, is what if actually next week or something they decide to release Immortal? You know, it'd be weird if it came out. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just about to say, and that was the wrench that I was just about to throw in both the predictions, because I don't know if you guys had seen it, that apparently like one of the big Chinese fan sites had had started disseminating an image of a Chinese tweet. All right, it wasn't a tweet, but it was one of those things that they're saying.
The 25th.
The rumor that will actually launch on the 25th.
Yeah, and that was the sort of impetus for my, oh, maybe that is a thing to consider, was the fact that that was out there now. And the thing that I like about that being a possibility is, yeah, it's weird to kind of release it without any prior marketing or campaign trail or anything like that. But you can also understand that not being a thing, given sort of community sentiment around it. Like, I think, if anything, there are people that are interested in Immortal and they'll find it once it's out. But Blizzard trying to make any more of a big deal out of it would probably just only garner more negative attention or open them up to more, assailments. Especially kind of given everything else that's been going on as well too.
The whole, the Hong Kong protests and the Hearthstone controversy and all of that.
Yeah, like people are already riled up at Blizzard enough to just want to, put them out as bad guys. So any more Immortal talk again is going to open them up to more stuff. So if you just drop it out of the sky, you can quietly have whoever wants it download it, play it. But that's all done before BlizzCon. So if anything, you can just say, oh yeah, and by the way, last week, we announced Immortal. Who knows what the crowd reaction is, and then you just move right along, right, and just keep the sentiment rolling towards things people might be more interested in.
Yeah. The only thing I can do to put a wrench in your wrench is we have to acknowledge the times we live in. Social media has kind of devolved from what its original purpose was, to bring people together and all that kind of stuff.
That's one of those things that a lot of people are calling into question, that there's no like official account on that particular like Weibo platform, I think it was called. And so that they're questioning the legitimacy of that tweet in and of itself, and that it might just be a spoof.
Well, that, and also let's go down this path, and it's real. That's 1 week exactly before BlizzCon. What do you think? What do you think people are going to do first thing? Because what I think most people are going to do, or at least the vocal minority of people are going to do, is they're going to download it, they're going to go straight to the cash shop, and they're going to take all the screenshots, and they're going to start blasting Blizzard. Even if the cash shop is fairly reasonable, and maybe even fairly reasonable compared to other mobile games or even regular PC standard games, it's just going to be sitting like, Immortal's out, and Blizzard proves that they're just out for the money. Here's the screenshots. I mean, I'm kind of going into a damned if they do, damned if they don't kind of scenario.
Oh, 100%.
But I would think if they believe something like that could happen, don't add another bullet wound to putting a downer on BlizzCon.
The number of people that you see that are going through and making phone memes, and then going through and saying, well, they've not talked about Immortal, I guess it's been canceled, is astonishing.
Yeah. That one, it's actually surprising to me how much staying power that meme has had, even in this is just a quick tangent, but Riot earlier this week did a huge celebration of 10 years of League of Legends and Riot Games. And even in one of their announcements where they were talking about like the future of teamfight tactics and stuff, they're like, apparently you do have phones. Like, it's just continuing, like, even from widespread other competition and stuff. So that one's just not going away. It's in memory.
Yeah, I don't think, just like, Era 37 and they doubled it. That one might not be going anywhere for a while, if ever.
A lot of these have staying power.
Yep. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I guess if we want to put a cap on it, I guess you could do it after BlizzCon too,
mhm.
and it would still kind of just be the elephant in the room if there isn't any mention of it at BlizzCon and none before as well. But I could also see a scenario where people forget about that if you have a bunch of other announcements that are really stellar anyway.
Yeah, that it will downplay any type of negativity. Kind of basically kind of like what Bethesda did with Elder Scrolls.
Hmm.
Um, but moving on, next, Diablo 2 remaster. Do you think that there gonna be any announcements in regards to a Diablo 2 remaster? And Leviathan, I'll give you the floor first on this one.
Um, so for this one, I haven't given it too much consideration because I do believe that Warcraft 3 Reforged is not out yet, right?
Correct. I
No.
believe it just had a PTR spin up, but it's not accessible.
Okay. And if we're under the assumption that that's, Classic Games' biggest baby right now, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they can only do one of those kinds of projects at a time, unless they're spinning up that team to have even more people on it, which could be a potential thing. I know they did say they want to emphasis on like producing games. They want a higher development. They want, just stuff pumping out in the next year plus. So maybe they are adding more to that team in particular, but I always feel like if they have one project that's coming out of that one team, then that is the thing. And so that means that D2 Remastered hasn't had a chance to have its turn yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would basically agree with that. It was like, since Warcraft 3, was it supposed to be summer of this year?
I
Did it
believe
actually
That's
get a
what
date?
or no, classic. What they said, summer of this year it came out. Um, I think the launcher says by the stereotypical 12/31 of this year, which could still happen. I mean, if it's in beta for a month and a half, that's still well within mid to late December.
Yeah, I
Um,
want to say yeah, Classic was summer, but Warcraft 3 Reforged was just 2019.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So they're gonna do Warcraft Reforged. They're gonna get as many bug fixes and glitches and all kinds of stuff fixed. They're gonna get that done, and then, I mean, if they're gonna do a D2 remaster, if they're not working on it right now, it may be another Blizz. It may take another BlizzCon or two
Yeah,
before they announce that. I would imagine. I mean,
that's one of those ones where it's by the time that StarCraft 2 remastered had shipped, they had kind of already started pre-production on Reforged. So
mhm.
it could be that similar situation, kind of Leviathan, as you were saying, that they might be starting on it right now, but it's not. They want the focus to be on Reforged. They don't want to over, they want to kind of like speak over their own announcement with
Right.
going with the back to back things.
Right.
Get all the Warcraft money.
Yeah. And then like one of those other ones is just kind of like going back and having a couple conversations with some other people in the community, is going and looking at it, and there's actually like no rumors that the Diablo 2 remaster is actually even in development. It's just conjecture. There's even like when going through and you have like those a couple of those like bombshell Kotaku articles, nowhere it talks about canceled Diablo projects and all this other types of stuff, but nowhere in it does it ever mention anything about the potentiality of a Diablo 2 remaster.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah. There really wasn't anything mentioned one way or another.
Unless
Yep.
it's the industry's like best kept secret, but I feel like there's always leaks, there's always something.
Yeah, rumors, rumblings, or something along those lines. But then again, we got hit with Immortal. And
True.
that one no one saw coming, besides the memers.
And people who are keen on that whole, why is there a phone case in the gear store?
Yeah, yeah, that is also true.
Hmm.
So I think that we're pretty much all in agreement on Diablo 2 remaster, not this year.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely not BlizzCon 2019 ready.
yeah. And I'm going to try and extend this out for as long as I possibly can because we know what everyone wants to hear talked about. Netflix series?
Hmm.
You know, in that initial tweet by James Crosby, am I
And
anywhere near right?
Andy Crosby, Andy
Andy Crosby.
Cosby,
Okay,
no R.
Cosby. Yeah, that initial tweet, and then it got taken down, and then there was like a pseudo update, it was like a more proper, like secretive, like I can't wait to like tell you what I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems like as you've mentioned in multiple Westmarch workshops previous to this one, that it seems like Netflix, they have to branch out into their own, proprietary things, because with the rise of Disney Plus, as well as CNBC's Universal's streaming service, a lot of Netflix's shows and series and movies that they would normally show off are going to be stripped away from them. It's going to be, unfortunately, the great diversification of the streaming services, which was not meant to happen. It was meant to fight the cable.
Yay, cable! Cable
Cable
2.0.
cutting, and now we're back. We're back where we began a decade ago. Anyways, so coming back to the tweets and Netflix needing to make more original content, and you pair that with what they've done in the past with Castlevania, and with a whole slew of new game-related animation series that they're doing. I mean, I would say I would just want it, just to have something external. It's a question not so much of yes, no. It's a question of why not. Really, that's what I believe it to be.
I think that makes sense. So I think I'm trying to figure out the best way to like phrase it, but I think if you believed that maybe there was supposed to be some kind of Diablo thing beyond Immortal last year, it's possible that it was indeed pushed back, because that was something that was kind of floated with one of the Kotaku articles, I believe, that maybe there was going to be something, and then it just didn't work out. So if you're going to have like a rollout of a new game, like this new big entry into the franchise, and you want supporting media around it, kind of like what we've seen with the Overwatch approach with comics and shorts and stuff like that, I could see, drumming up hype, being like, we're working on the game. Game has this much done, and they show us a cinema or whatever. Maybe there's a little bit of a hands-on demo, but you can keep that hype going by having other things that are definitely done, like media of, a Netflix series or some comics or books, like we saw with the Book of Tyrael and stuff prior to D3. It does feel like there's a possibility, but I guess the possibility of it is also linked to what else is coming.
Yeah, because you can go back to March, when Blizzard actually filed a copyright for a Diablo Netflix, a Diablo animated series specifically for internet streaming services.
Yeah, and another thing is, it wouldn't be Blizzard's first time into this. I mean, it's been a while, but we all forget about the World of Warcraft movie. So, but you would think that a Netflix series would be a lot more palatable to the bottom line, because how many millions of dollars were spent on the World of Warcraft movie for that return on investment, versus if you're going to develop something for Netflix, especially if it's animated versus live action, what's the cost there really? How many people, the animation studio, how much is that really going to cost versus full-blown live action series, or go to versus a movie? For crying out loud, we've all been saying for how many years, decades now, like, Blizzard, your development team cinematic team is amazing, just freaking do it yourself. They did an almost 6-minute cinematic in World of Warcraft with Sylvanas and Grom.
Yeah,
not Grom.
Sarfang.
Someone correct me. Sarfang. Thank you.
Yeah, the cinematics team has been like absolutely knocking it out of the park for Battle for Azeroth.
Oh, yeah. So it's like they're getting, like, they're somehow, some way, they're getting better internally, and they're doing these massively long deals. And it's not like that was the first one. There was a bunch of
I'm not
real,
I'm not so sure that it's going to be like made in-house at Blizzard, because like specifically like one of the reasons why like the name of Andy Cosby piqued so much interest is because he actually has his own studio as well that he'd be able to go through and handle the production and the development of like a Diablo animated series, which again the copyright itself specifically states it as an animated series, not a live action or anything like that.
To clarify, I didn't want to implicate that Blizzard would do it in-house. It's just what we all think and say, but it would definitely be like an outsourced like third-party animation, which is just as good. I mean, the Rash cinematic we all remember was great for what it was at the time. So
yeah, and it also just some of the other things is like Netflix has been buying up video game properties left and right. I think that they have Devil May Cry, Resident Evil, The Division, Cuphead, and The Witcher, though I was corrected on a previous episode that specifically the license that they have for The Witcher is from the novels. So there will be differences between the Witcher TV series and then the Witcher that everybody knows through CD Projekt Red's video game, because they took some liberties with their interpretation of the books, and this series is the Netflix interpretation of the books, not the Netflix interpretation of the video game.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
it would fall in line with kind of the dynamic of what they've been up to.
Yeah, and Castlevania is getting another season. That one is another one that's confirmed. So there's a lot that they're working on, to, I guess, to replace that Marvel void that they're going to go through, and that they're going to have that they have now, since they're not doing any more series or anything along those lines. I was reading something that they might actually follow up with like a Defenders.
Oh, that would be on Netflix?
Yeah. But they might do one last spin, with something with the characters themselves before they hand everything back over to Marvel.
Interesting.
Because they have a 2-year grace period that after they end a series, they still hold the rights for 2 years after it. So if they do something, they can do something with those characters after having canceled the series and bring it back. Though, Hulu, which, is code name for Disney, since they have the controlling share of Hulu, wants to make, they want to buy specifically Daredevil. They want to continue making the Daredevil show on Hulu.
Well, streaming wars, man. It's going to be crazy.
That's it.
It's not so much a war. Disney has already won. Everyone else is just fighting for the scraps.
It's fighting for second place. I got nothing else, so I guess I have to ask the question: Diablo 4?
What's that?
What is that? What is that really?
Oh man.
Okay, so if you've listened to the show, we've got a lot of people in chat right now, because I'm sure people are waiting for when we go through and we do the virtual ticket giveaway for the 2 tickets, which we'll be wrapping things up here shortly. So don't worry, the tickets are coming soon. The tickets are coming soon. It's if you've been listening to the show, like Diablo 4 is like the worst kept secret. Everybody knows that they made Diablo 4. If you've read that Kotaku article, you know that they almost announced Diablo 4 last year, and it got pulled a little bit ahead of the convention. So Diablo 4 is happening, is being announced at this BlizzCon. If you don't believe it, then you're not looking at the signs and everything that's like right in front of you. So I guess to make it a little bit more interesting in terms of the prediction, because it's like, oh yeah, I think Diablo 4 is going to get announced. Yeah, that's a 99.99% chance at going through and guessing that one. That's a lot of risk involved. Sorry, 99.9999999.
There we go. There's the emphasis. I'm proud of you.
Let's take it a little bit further. since there was like the whole Project Hades, and we saw specifically like back in the early days they were hiring for people that had experience with coding, third person over the shoulder, like camera angles and such. Is it going to be isometric? Do you think Diablo 4 will keep the traditional isometric view, or are we going to go something like over the shoulder?
Okay, I want to answer that, but I also want to set the stage on how I actually feel about BlizzCon as a thing right now.
Floor is yours.
Okay. I think this is potentially the most important BlizzCon that Blizzard will undergo, in its previous installments to now. And the reason I feel this way is
2000% agree. I'm getting that in right now.
Okay, good. The totality of circumstances could not be more adverse and also potentially devastating from what comes next too. So the way I'm looking at it is, we've touched on some of the things already, like the Hong Kong fiasco, as people are calling it, has shed a lot of light on Blizzard, a lot of negative light. And that's very, if you think about what have you done for me lately, that's kind of one of the things people are going into BlizzCon with. So they're fighting against that. If you want to boil it down more specifically, actually, no, let's stay a little bit more general. You just had the Riot 10 celebration, and Riot essentially put their line in the sand to say, we can be as big as Blizzard. We are going to make 1 billion games as well, in all these different genres. And they're attacking so many of the same genres that Blizzard has games in. And we know that they have an insanely rabid fan base, millions of players of League of Legends that are going to disperse to these other games. So you have very strong competition that's coming, or is even already here. Then if you boil it down even more so to ARPGs and Diablo, you have what you have from the past couple of years and such, of people feeling like they've been set up and then let down with with the lack of announcements on what's the future of the Diablo franchise in a major way. And now you also have all these things that are coming from either existing competitors or future competitors. ExileCon is 2 weeks after BlizzCon, and they are talking about what happens next in Path of Exile 3.9 and 4.0, which is supposed to be their huge, this competes with whatever Blizzard's going to do next patch.
It is funny how GGG has talked more about Diablo 4 than Blizzard has.
Very well said, very well pointed out. This is true.
And it's out there. It's and their stuff is out there. Like, they talk 3.9 is this, 4.0 is this, and both are going to be playable at the con floor. That's 3 little lines is greater than what we have from Blizzard. So even that alone,
it's a lot of applied pressure, right? And that's from one of your biggest existing competitors. But don't forget the landscape of ARPGs. There's so many new ones coming. You have Wolcen, which is now slated to actually be released. Can't believe that's coming out. January 2020.
Yeah.
So that's right at the top of the year. Then you have Last Epoch, which has been going along greatly with its beta. That's supposed to come out April 2020. And then you also have, there's one more that's escaped. The Torchlight one. That's
Frontiers.
Sort of Frontiers, yeah. That's pseudo in the RPG genre as well. And I think there's even something else too. I'm sure there's probably others that are a little under the radar as well.
Yeah.
So
Pagan Online, but that one has come out, I think. But I know it was in the scheme of things.
So yeah, there's just so many different angles that Blizzard is sort of taking fire from, that I think they have to nail this BlizzCon. And when I say nail it, I mean you have to unveil a good majority of cards and aces. We're talking high stakes cards, because they may have already been slipping in market share in terms of ARPG players and interest, or just general Blizzard interest and general Blizzard sentiment. But it's only going to get worse if they delay yet another year.
Yeah. It has to be this year, with everything else that's going on, literally everything else that's going on. Because you were touching on it, how they had the thing with, you've got major competition from Riot, you already have your pre-existing competition, you've got the whole Hong Kong fiasco. Earlier in the year, you had the mass layoffs, and then coming off of the kind of the breakdown of communication over Immortal, that this they can't take another L. Obviously they can, even if they have a disastrous announcement of Diablo 4 at this BlizzCon. Let's at least be realistic that they'll still go through to announce Diablo 4. It will make tremendous sales and be hugely successful. But it will lose a lot of its core audience, and those are the ones that are dedicated, that keep coming back, that keep those player numbers high season over season. They're the ones that go through and buy the Blizzard t-shirts, the tickets to BlizzCon, the virtual tickets and things of that nature. So whereas it might not contribute overall to that big nice overall sales number, it definitely is going to hurt its long-standing impact. And that was actually kind of like a argument / discussion that I was getting into on Reddit over the last couple of days, that I think that Diablo 4 itself is going to be a big indicator of just what Diablo 3's impact really had on the franchise. Because if Diablo 4 doesn't match up to what Diablo 3 did, then that does kind of show that maybe Diablo, that like the Blizzard higher ups that canceled the second expansion kind of knew that they had hurt the franchise in general, with kind of how Diablo 3 launched, between the real money auction house, performance issues, and all this other types of stuff, and that they really need to go back and re-deliver on, kind of like a more of a core Diablo experience.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess, reminiscing about us being here a year ago, when I was saying like, no, D4, I wasn't 100%, but I was like 90, because we had the comic books, which were similar to the other two releases. We had the book coming out similar to the other releases. The Netflix thing wasn't a good indicator, because it wasn't like it was matched, but again, it could have been treated that way. And to kind of harken back to what Leviathan just said, last year would have been perfect. World of Warcraft was in the middle of its expansion, or it was just going to be released, so BlizzCon itself was cleared for Diablo to suck up more of the airtime, as well as Path of Exile was only going to have a league. All these other games were still kind of fledging, whereas now, as again Leviathan just stated, Wilson has a firm release date, which is probably shimming up its core base, because now that they have a release date, they're now more confident in playing the game and supporting the game and actually playing it to try to get other people to play it, like actually build a community around that game. Same thing for Last Epoch, as well as Grim Dawn has been doing some great things over the last couple of months, as well as, circling back quickly to PoE. As we just said, 3 lines from Grinding Gear Games. ExileCon 3.9 will be playable, 4.9 will be playable. That's all they need to say. But the reason why that's important is because it's not that we don't necessarily have that from Blizzard, but it certainly is to Blizzard's and Diablo team's detriment. So when it comes to Diablo 4 or whatever it is this year, it has to happen, because if it doesn't, whereas last year we were let down, this year I view it as a complete succession of the action RPG genre to everybody else. Because what are you saying? It's kind of like, you put it in a way of like, you're not, it's almost like you're not defending your copyright, because Diablo is the trendsetter, the mother of all action, or at least modern action RPGs, and you're just not defending it. You're not putting out a new version of it. You're not trying to be the trendsetter. So if you're not doing that, what are you doing? You're allowing others to define it.
Yeah,
and not defining the genre, you're allowing others to define it for you. There you go. There's your $5 quote for the night for me. But here's where I've been, and if you follow me on Twitter, you saw like a 12-part thread about this a couple of days ago. My greatest hope for this BlizzCon is when I'm there in the audience with you guys and many others that we've been there. This will be my 7th one in a row. is to just keep this short. I don't want to feel like I have to defend this franchise anymore. I don't want to feel like I need to rationalize why I still play this game anymore. And I just want to throw my fist in the air after seeing the trailer, after seeing what we're getting that they show, and just be excited. Because if you try to ask me to quantify what I want from this game, I can't. Because I have thought about it. I've done an article. I've done the development hell, which I'm bringing a printed version. You're going to see how fucking big this thing actually is in printed version.
Oh, I know how big it is. We've had conversations about how big it is.
But oh my god,
are we still talking about the
fisting? We're still talking about fisting.
Oh, fisting, yes, gotcha.
I mean, you get 7 guys in a room, it's bound to happen, right? Anyways, but it's like I was thinking about it, and I was like, if I had to nail down what I want Diablo 4 to be, like those 3 things, like I were like how I feel about the genre and about Diablo, but what I would want from Diablo 4, a clean slate. I think, in all honesty, I just want a clean slate. I just want, not that I want something different or I want something new. I just want a clean slate, a clean palette for something for this game to develop, and basically be a facilitator for this community so we can just be Diablo players again. I think at the crux is what we all want. You can have many other arguments, many other viewpoints, but I think at the end of the day, that's what we want. We just want a blank slate. We just want to start anew, so to speak, and just be Diablo players again.
Yeah, and I think one thing too, we should brighten the tone a little, because it sounds really dire right now, and I don't want us to all be like, singing the funeral dirge before we even go to the event. I do hope that BlizzCon is going to be pretty hype, and they are going to have understood what the sentiment is out there. Like they just can't be that tone deaf. And I mean, my goodness, if that's the case, then Lord help us all.
Yeah.
But I still feel that we should at least garner some hope and like excitement that the event is gonna go off well. And then we can definitely, further down the road talk about exactly what we need out of D4 and stuff like that. But it is important, I think, that was just what I wanted to do, was just set the stage of how like important this is. I guess to actually answer your question
10 minutes later,
right? I do feel that in order to move forward, they have to make some bigger changes than what we're used to and what we expect from the genre. And I think we kind of had a similar conversation in past podcasts of what is it that you need to have for sure to define that you're playing an ARPG. Like, is isometric so essential that you can't deviate from that? Otherwise, you're just almost taking, the A or the R or whatever letter away from your genre title. I don't know that so say this, it is a remarkable change, right? Imagine seeing Whirlwind from a third-person view. It'd be really different.
What if you could see Whirlwind while tying your camera to your character?
This is like some crazy stuff. You don't see anything, right? It'd be really different. And I feel like you're definitely moving more towards, and we said this in the past too, like an MMO sort of synthesis to your game, potentially like Destiny 2-ish or Borderlands, if you have other similar genre comparisons out there.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's unfounded or undone, but it would be very different for
I think that's a very good point there. That Borderlands 3 is a very big and successful. It's referred to as a looter shooter. Much akin to like Destiny and such. But at their core, they're ARPGs. They're just ARPGs with guns.
Absolutely, yeah. They have and I guess so. That's kind of the thing, right? Is you still do label those ARPGs and you have no problem calling them that. So maybe it isn't the isometric that, it feels like it needs to be essential. Maybe it's just the fact that there's heavy RNG, there's things to collect, there's lots of monsters to kill, there's bosses, there's characters, and you build your characters. Like maybe those are the pillars.
Let me phrase the question in a different way and see if this changes the answer. Is Diablo 4 the Diablo title to break away from the isometric view, given the main complaint of Diablo 3 was that it was not Diablo 2?
Now that is a better question, because it goes back to what you were just talking about a couple minutes ago, is what are the lessons learned from D3?
Yeah.
And how much are those reflected in what D4 does? Do they attempt to innovate, which was some of the potential problems that plagued D3 if it moved too far from D2 for purists? Or do they double down and say, we heard you, we're going back in the vault of history, and we're just basically taking what we have done in the past and ramping all those things up? And I even see, like, in chat, Microwaves is like, oh, bigger changes, Monka S. And that is something that a lot of people are afraid of. If they deviate or try too many fancy things,
Yeah.
it's more room to get it wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I stated before, like my greatest hope before was just like a clean slate. Like, wow me, surprise me, like show me all the wondrous things. But my biggest fear is not so much that Diablo 4 isn't announced. I mean, I think most people, even though being jaded from last year, feel that it's going to come. It's summed up in one line: is how much do the developers feel that we, the players, actually liked, and that's in quotation mark, and carry over to the next game, versus how much the player base we truly liked and would like to see next game, and how much that philosophy carries over. Because I could go in like Paragon first thing, obviously. That's been my death hill or hill to die on type hill. But that also segues exactly to your question, because it's like, do they carry over a Paragon like system, but they make it functional, put a cap on it, and do something else? Do they take like a Kanai's cube and just rework it to not be so much a gear accelerator, but actually make it a more gear augmentation system and carry that forward?
That could be one of the ones where, say, if they implement more MMO type elements with partied content and raids that necessitate more of a reason for your grind, that you're not grinding gear in order to complete your GR150 faster. You have other challenges in order to complete that you're trying to get that gear for.
Exactly. And I would feel that's probably the best thing to do with Diablo 3 as well as Diablo 2 as well as Diablo 1. It's not going back to those games and taking things directly from them, ripping them out and just hodgepodging them together, because that's also something I feel Diablo 3, it's a tightly wound game. It works well for what it is, but there are loose ends. But if you try to fix them, it screws over other systems woefully, and then it just doesn't work. But I feel if they do that, where they go back to, say, Runewords and try to make it more applicable within a new game space, if they go back to Diablo 1 and they say, okay, we won't necessarily do stat point allocations, but we'll do something that's a little bit more forgiving like that, and make stat point allocations matter. So you have more creative development in your character right from the get-go, like stuff like that. I would feel that would be the way to do it. It's not necessarily take from the previous games. It's
that also is like one of those ones where it's like going through and like even looking at World of Warcraft, going from Legion to Battle for Azeroth. People absolutely loved artifact weapons because it was a talent tree, and it was a talent tree that you filled out, that you didn't have to make choices. Eventually, you put everything into it. And you were done, But people love that aspect because people, even if it's 100% cookie cutter and everyone's playing the exact same thing, and that your journey, filling out the tree only takes 2 months, and then everyone's the same. People enjoyed it, and I hope that that's a lesson that Blizzard went, and it has, people have been yelling at them for all of BFA, and I hope that the Diablo developers kind of go through and learn that, yeah, sure, talent trees, everyone ends up being cookie cutter, everyone ends up being the same. Your lowest common denominator, common player, might make some mistakes that screws them over, in the late game, but people like having the semblance of customization, even if it isn't actual customization itself. And the hardcore crew, they're overplaying Path of Exile, Wilson, and stuff like that because they have those options in order to mess around with the talent tree or the sphere grid or whichever iteration that they have. People want to have those choices, and they want to have a feeling that they have some sort of impact. And ticking that little skill and that little bubble every time that they level up or gain a new artifact power level or whatever is good. It's a positive player experience, and it's something that I hope that they bring back. Sorry.
And I actually think that's where we can coalesce both parts of this conversation that you guys are having is, yeah, we want to see innovation, but there are some like historical aspects that people really enjoy, such as talent trees, such as actual customization for characters. So I think you almost marry the two, where like you give players choice or what seems like choice or whatever, how it ends up working out, but you also innovate within what we've done in the past so that you're doing similar actions or similar things. And to talk more specifically about it, say for instance, RPGs and previous Diablos have always had classes, and we expect there to be your typical archetypes of like there's a bow, there's a magicer, there's a barbarian of some sort, some melee class, whatever. But you could go the route of mixing and matching or borrowing more skills. Like there's so many different ways you can approach that sort of pillar of the genre and be able to present a thing that players know and are accustomed to, but also put a different spin on it. And then maybe that's how you kind of married together both we're moving things forward, but we're giving you some of those things that you have told us that you enjoy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can even like, you can have versions of the system where like on the surface level, it's pretty basic. These are the things people take. There will be build guides, and these are the things that, the top tier players say to do. But maybe there are still choices within it that, hardcore players can tinker with, or it lends itself to another system where between synergies there, it gets a little more complex.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah. And yeah, go ahead. It's okay.
Fine. And just like the one final thing that I had that I wanted to go through and kind of throw out there is, what if there is another Diablo game that they're going to announce that isn't one of these? What if
not the next main,
not Immortal, not a D2 remake, and not Diablo 4? What if they actually brought back Project Hades and they are doing, a kind of Darksiders, Dark Soul style Diablo spin-off title in addition to all the other mainline games?
Multiple teams, multiple projects.
That's what I'm saying. There were a lot of things out there, and I don't want to completely have sold on that, the art book is one of those multiple projects, or the Netflix series is one of those multiple projects. That there's something else that, just like I want to be prepared, because I've been trying to think outside the box, because, we were kind of blindsided by the Immortal announcement. What is it that we're not thinking about right now? What is it that we're not expecting? And that's like the one thing is like, well, what if it's just kind of like a console only spin-off title, much akin to like what Riot, literally just did, where they're taking their IP and branching it out into multiple genres, multiple games, but they're using kind of like that core, League of Legends story and characters and flavor, to push into these other genres and such. Why, what is stopping Blizzard from doing the same and, branching out and fleshing out more of the Diablo IP? Because it itself sets itself up for that type of style of game a lot better than like World of Warcraft does, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, first things first. Cheeky answer to your question. I'm running to get the hell out of the convention center.
Well, see, that's the thing. That would be in addition to Diablo 4. Not that's what it's not a standalone thing. That we're getting Immortal, we're getting Diablo 4. They might mention a Diablo 2 remaster, but we doubt it. They might mention a Diablo Netflix series, but what if they also announce, in addition to Diablo 4, they announce, like a Dark Souls style spinoff?
I mean, it's hard to think, but okay. I erase that cheeky answer because I misunderstood how you were phrasing the question. But to just remind everybody, Diablo is the trendsetter of modern Blizzard, because even though Hearthstone went to mobile, it was ported and it's the same game. Diablo brought Blizzard back to consoles, so Overwatch was actually following in Diablo's footsteps, and Diablo Immortal is an original game meant for the mobile platform. So it is now twice led the charge into uncharted territory. So your question is actually very apt. Pun with that, Tuba. You should be proud of me. Anyways, so yeah, it's like, okay, so I guess to really answer the question is, what would they be targeting? Because you could ask yourself this: are they targeting a specific platform, or are they targeting a specific genre? Because one could dictate something.
They're targeting a couple of developers that wanted to make a Dark Souls game, and they decided to use the Diablo franchise as the conveyance of that.
I mean, that definitely could still be a possibility. I mean, they may...
In general, that's, to our understanding, how Immortal came about.
Like a small strike team that wanted to do something different.
They wanted to do something different. They still wanted to work on a Diablo game, but they're kind of like, hey, I wouldn't mind working on a mobile title. And that's when they went through and developed it.
So to jump in a little bit, two things from my side. One is, I think the Riot comparison is a little tougher to make in this case, because Blizzard has kind of already done that, just not with one IP, right? Like they've done all these different ones and shot into different genres.
How many times have they tried to make a StarCraft 2 shooter?
Jeez, that is true. I do feel like, so, and that actually, that's a good point though, right? If you can believe in the idea that they're no longer reticent to do overlap in genres, then sure, Diablo IP could go a number of different ways. I do think it is important to reiterate that this is an addition to a Diablo 4 announcement and like reveal and such, because this can basically just be another thing. And if it's not for you, that's fine, but you still have your main thing, right?
Yeah.
Which I think definitely takes a little bit of the pressure off of such a different approach to the IP. If we're sticking specifically to just this Dark Souls thing, I think another, and this is kind of my second point, and I can throw it back to Dread after this, the other thing to consider too is we kind of saw Overwatch do that, where, I forget the code name of the project at this point, but it was going to be something else, an entirely different MMO. Titan, yes, thank you. Project Titan was going to be essentially another MMO for Blizzard. Didn't quite work out, but they were able to salvage Overwatch out of it. And so maybe if there was so much work done on Project Hades and they didn't quite, decide to roll forward with that, maybe you do salvage a game out of it, even if it's a smaller game or something.
Roll forward with the Dark Souls title.
I see what you did there. I didn't realize I did that.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
I didn't even know. Roll. But it's possible. I wouldn't mind it, and I feel like more offerings are better than not. And it would be a way for Blizzard to kind of like, put themselves into different places they haven't been yet, which I feel like they often want to do. And if we talk again about just competition and the way that the gaming industry is shaping up, I feel like you kind of want to be everywhere. You want a lot of mobile titles, you want a lot of PC titles, you want a lot of console titles, because gamers are booming, a bunch of boomers out there, and people have phones. Like people have all these different ways they engage with games now. So the more options you have on different platforms, the better your ability to claim stake. And again, this just goes back to the mandate of Activision Blizzard stating they want more games out. They want to develop more games.
Yeah.
As you were talking, and just trying to figure out like what could Blizzard do with the Diablo franchise that would be different, but like it's an established genre, but it's different, and it would be something Blizzard could do that's wholly theirs. And I thought about something. because it wouldn't be too different than the supposed leak of a Dark Souls game, or that's in a third-party mode. But think of it as this angle. Let me try to do my best with atmospherics. You don't have to close your eyes, but just
It's a
imagine
Diablo
this way:
party.
you pick a character, you pick a barbarian, a wizard, you pick your class. You go into, you start in the basement of this dank house. You go out, and there's
Is
a
it lit?
path, and there's a no, and there's a path before you. It's a burnt village, kind of reminiscent of like New Tristram, or Tristram being burnt to the ground. You have a weapon in your hand, and you're starting out with basically whatever on your back, and you just have to charge forward, and you keep on going. You kill stuff, and you meet mini bosses, and you get to the end, and you have to choose: do you heal yourself, or do you get an upgrade to carry on to the next level? What if you take the Dark Souls angle third party, kind of kept the third party angle, but you made a Diablo 3
Are you meaning to say third person?
roguelike game? A Diablo roguelike. So you have all the randomness that is expected of an action RPG. You have it's based literally around action. You go around, you kill enemies, and you can still pick up armor that's randomly generated from mobs that are there, but there's flexibility. In fact, it's almost like, what do I unlock at the end of this run? How do I make that fit with what I want to do? How can I make what gear I picked up work most effectively for the next levels? What items do I get? Because that also ties into what we've all been asking for years now, which is give us a wave-like mechanic. Which, to tell you the truth, if you want a wave-like mechanic in Diablo 3, look to kill 100 chests. I mean, that's your wave mechanic right there. And in the game, it exists. It's boring. Congratulations. But if you had a roguelike version, over the shoulder Diablo game, that would be just enough Diablo, but just enough of a current genre, but they could put such a Blizzard twist on it. That could be something. But it also could be just a wild fantasy goose chase.
Yeah. What about a Diablo Darkest Dungeon?
It sounds like a lot of these. Go ahead if you're not.
No, I'm just like throwing out random ideas now.
Yeah, I think there's something there because essentially you could not isolate players if you keep it loosely related. So that same concept of, like you guys are saying, RNG, like heavy elements of RNG, loot / items that you equip your character with, progression, leveling up, etc. Like all those things are tenets of what players are familiar with coming from Diablo.
Yeah.
But then you just change the settings of how you interact either with your actual character, whether it persists or not, your gear and how you maintain it or don't, and sort of all those different conceits that you put your characters into. One of the things I just saw Grev in chat and I responded to is like, well, that hurts because it's not character persistence. But if you're doing a roguelike, that's exactly what people expect from that is you die and everything's gone and you start back over. So it would be the Diablo franchise in a different light, which is what we're trying to come up with right now.
Yeah.
But it's not such a far leap that it doesn't seem impossible. I think people might like
that was kind of going back to my earlier point, whereas Diablo, I think, is the franchise that lends itself most to kind of experimenting around with a lot of these different types of games. Because Warcraft itself is more specifically about they use everything that they can to try and tie Sylvanas or Sarfang or Thrall or Grom or whatever into the storyline, and it's about the heroes. It's about these big name characters that you've grown up with. You literally have grown up with for like the past 30 years. But Diablo is more just about the visceral feel in the setting, less so about the characters.
Right, which you can apply to a bunch of different things.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think also, like, I see the reactions in chat and it's like making me a little frustrated. I think it'd be hard to sell something like this because everyone's just like, just give me the ARPG. This is in addition to, like, people. I think if you start to talk about anything that's like outside of like the next Diablo game, People just lose their minds. They like can't concentrate. So they don't understand that like you can make multiple projects of other games.
Maybe we can have this conversation after they announce Diablo 4 at BlizzCon.
That might be a better one, a better time.
Yeah. But yeah, that was just my one thing that I wanted to try and go through and get like kind of like feedback or ideas for, because I feel like there's something else. There's going to be something else at BlizzCon that's not, one of the above titles. And I'm pulling Dark Souls as the low hanging fruit because of the Project Hades. But I mean just like Dread said, it could be a roguelike, or it could be a card game or whatever. We have no idea. Or what was it? The Diablo first person shooter that TJ Laser Gaming said.
I mean, they also still don't have an auto battler.
I mean, that's also true.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm just gonna say this because I just thought about it. Imagine this scene at BlizzCon. Whoever is going to be the representative for Diablo comes out on stage, and he says he's going to talk about 4 things.
Oh god.
The first one being immortal, because Roman numeral 1.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh yeah, we're working on Diablo 2 remaster, Roman numeral 2.
Yep.
And then they talk about what they're doing for Diablo 3. Boom. And they can say, what's that 4th thing that we were going to talk about? I forgot, but I got something to show you. And it just cuts to like the opening cinematic. I mean, that sounds like the dream right there. But
that'd be worth a shot. Yeah, I would take a shot. Yeah, I'd take a shot during a drinking game for that one.
I like it.
Yeah, but before we actually get to the ticket giveaway itself, I just want to open the floor just a little bit. If there's any quick comments that you would like to make or talk about, before we kind of start moving into the end of the show here.
Just quickly, I'm pumped. I'm still really excited to get to BlizzCon, see everybody. That's always like the main awesomeness of it, is just seeing all you guys' faces. It's like our family reunion once per year. Eating delicious food all around California with everyone. Whatever announcements come, I'm hopeful that they're going to be sick. I really want to just be able to be hyped and tweeting out a million things, and playing stuff at the convention as well. But yeah, we should have more stuff. It's kind of weird that we don't have schedule and floor plan. We didn't really touch that, but it feels like we're getting down to the wire here. It's only a couple more weeks to go, so I just want time to go faster. Let's go.
Yep. Dread?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think I'm focusing my efforts on just, seeing everyone again. We have a much better hotel room this year. 2 bathrooms, so much better. And also, I can say that the printer, the Cards Against Humanity Cards Against Diablo Community Edition that SVR and myself have been painstakingly putting together. All the cards are at the printer. They're going to be done and cut out for me on Monday. So I will be able to bring, it's over 350 cards. And I have the Westmarch Workshop white cards out. And just give you a sample for the white cards is
Jar Jar. Just want to make this quick.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I'll just do like 2. The near Lovecraftian horror of Neinball without a beard. Yeah. And another one is Jar Jar licking Neinball's ear lovingly with those longing eyes. That's just a sample of what you have to look forward to.
Thanks, I hate it.
Perfect.
Many, many more. So that'll be exciting to unleash on everybody and get to see, because the whole beauty of Ka is seeing everyone's first gut reaction and just seeing how everyone looks at these things. So that alone will be worth all this month's worth of work.
Yep. Misa needs to see these. Nevik, why? Don't feed him. Don't encourage him. But yeah. With that, I guess we're gonna go ahead and give the keys away now. So don't start typing it yet. But when the giveaway starts in chat, you're going to type the keyword BlizzCon. capitalization doesn't matter. So all you'll just have to do is just go ahead and type BlizzCon in order to go through and do the giveaway itself. We'll give it a minute or so for people to go through and get it in. And so go ahead, type BlizzCon to win, and we'll be picking 2 people to go ahead and give these keys away. And then for those of you that are listening, on YouTube or on iTunes, I will be giving away the 1 key on YouTube. All you have to do is just make a comment on the YouTube channel, by Sunday, the 20th. You just have to make sure that you get it in there by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday the 20th. I will have that video up tomorrow, Friday the 18th. All you have to do is just comment on that for a chance to win. And then for those listening on iTunes or Stitcher, you just have to send an email at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com, with what your expectations are for BlizzCon itself. Did that not work? I see people going through and typing in. I turned off case sensitivity, but it has an empty list. Okay, there we go. Never mind. I was looking at the wrong screen. You don't have to type it in again. Yep, I got the users all right there. All right. And so just one more chance.
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, you got like 15 seconds. So just if you want a chance to win, type BlizzCon. That's it.
Still have a moment to sacrifice a small goat.
Yep. Then of course there's the stream delay, so it's actually a couple more seconds than that. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close it off, and let's make a roll. Oh, look at that.
Nice, Watson.
Yep. And then for number 2, I hope this actually does handle multiple users. There we go. And
Hey.
Watson and Bear Too Kind are our 2 winners for the chat here tonight. But then again, if you were here in the chat, or if you're listening at home, you still have 2 more chances to enter in order to go through and get the last 2 keys. These keys are provided courtesy of Blizzard. They were provided to us over here at BlizzPro. And then also thanks to JR of BlizzPro, because he basically gave me the full allotment from BlizzPro in order to go through and give away on the show here. Partially because we expect Diablo is the big push, for this year, even though there's going to be a WoW expansion, but they do that every 2 years. Who cares? We've got Diablo 4 coming, right? So I will message you guys here on Twitch in just a minute. We'll wrap up the show and then I'll go through and message you guys. So please stay tuned after the show wraps up, and we'll get you those keys. But with that, I want to thank Leviathan and Dredscythe for coming on the show here tonight and joining me and reliving some memories and making some predictions. And wow, that's shouldn't be surprised. We went a full 2 hours on that one.
Just like old times.
Just
literally.
like old times.
Damn right.
No, it's fun, man. Thanks for having us on. Always good to get the band back together, and we could probably talk about this stuff again for another 2 + 2, double it, and then double it and double it hours.
We'd probably talk until BlizzCon.
Seriously though.
Yeah.
And then talk some more.
Yeah, at BlizzCon and then afterwards. We'll have a lot to talk about after BlizzCon, of course.
RNG, hopefully making it.
Yep. But with that, we'll kind of go through and wrap it up here. Again, if you're listening at home or if you didn't win in chat tonight, you still have 2 more chances. Tomorrow, the video will be going up on YouTube, and all you have to do is just comment on the YouTube page in order for a chance to win, and I will contact the winner Monday morning, after the entry period. And same thing for those listening to the podcast at home. Just send in an email with what you hope is going to be announced at BlizzCon at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. Again, that email to enter is westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. And also feel free to just go to the YouTube page and comment over there. You got, not really got to be checking to make sure that the T's are crossed or the I's are dotted. But just go ahead, check it out there. And by all means, if you have anything else that you want to talk about, if you enjoyed the show or you have topics or your own ideas about what's going to be announced at BlizzCon, feel free to drop me a line at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. You can follow the show at the WM Workshop on Twitter. And I will be live streaming here on twitch.tv/BlizzPro every other week. Generally it is on Wednesdays, but going forward it's going to be on Thursdays a lot because of work interference, but that would be at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Just stay tuned to the Twitter account in order to see when we'll be going live or what dates I'll be recording on. You can also check out all the news that you find here and more over at diablo.blizzpro.com, or for the other website that I write for, Diablo fans. And feel free to go ahead and look us up. We're the BlizzPro clan in game, or the Westmarch Workshop community, though there's a lot of issues with community chats and such going on. And by all means, also feel free to stop by discord.gg/BlizzPro, and then you can follow me personally at Neinball Gamer on Twitter. And then if you gentlemen would like to go ahead and say where the lovely peoples can find you on the interwebs.
Go ahead, Dred.
You can find me at Dredscythe on Twitter. You can also find my podcast that I've been doing, which you can find at scytheandshield.com. Basically focuses on people who play this game and focusing on where they came from. And lastly, in BlizzCon related news, I will be taking my second tour of the Calm Before the Storm general panel, the first panel at BlizzCon this year again. It's a pretty stacked stage with people who are there, so it's a little nervous. But that'll be fun to be on another platform, be able to talk about Blizzard in general the night before the convention itself at Calm Before the Storm, which is always a lovely event. And if you're going to BlizzCon, it's basically mandatory, especially now that they've joined up with Go Ahead at this point. So that's where you'll be able to find me here, now, and everywhere.
Awesome, man. Good luck. You're going to be awesome. It's a really fun way to kick off BlizzCon. I'm sure you're going to crush it. As far as finding me, it's Leviathan as far as the name goes. And then I just haven't unified my social media at all, so now it's all crazy. But on Twitter, it's That's Leviathan. On Twitch, it's Leviathan111. And then on YouTube, it's Leviathan D3. Just one of those will lead you to all of them. So come and hang out. I'm going to be doing some PTR streaming over the next few days, checking out the new Crusader, getting that Fist of the Heavens going. So excited. So yeah, come check it out. We'll see you guys at there and at BlizzCon.
Yeah, buddy.
Woo.
And with that, that's going to close us out. So again, thank you both for going through and joining me here on the show. Thank you everyone in chat for going through and showing up to go through, listen to us, and for your the chance in order to get one of those keys. And thank you to Blizzard for going through and providing us with these lovely virtual ticket keys, so that way other people can experience the joy of BlizzCon too. And with that, everybody, I wish you all a good night, and well, I will catch you from the convention itself.
Peace.